Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the show Hidden Secrets in Books. You guys know we only bring the best of the best guests to the show, and today we are joined by one of the best. Today's guest is Brigid Kennedy, a debut YA fantasy author whose work blends Irish myth, icon legends, and real family history. Her novel, Lost, The Lost City of Icon Gold, is inspired by her ancestry and a family story of a great-grandfather who vanished into the Amazon. She's also a violin teacher, mother, and storyteller. Brigid, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me today.
Thank you very much, Brigid. Before we get into it, can you please introduce yourself to my audience?
For all you listeners out there, I am Brigid Kennedy, and I am like he said, I am a mother and author, and I just released my debut novel. So YA fantasy novel based on my true family history.
Thank you very much, Brigid. That was a brief and nice introduction from you. Let's get into the show. Brigid, where did the idea for the lost city of Icon Gold first come from? And at what point did you realize it was more than just a story?
Yes. So 3 years ago, I was sleeping and it was about 2 a.m. and my grandmother came to me in a dream, but it wasn't some visual or a fuzzy image. It was her face. It was her voice. And she said, and got right to the point, write our story. And I knew exactly what story she was talking about. She was talking about our family history that's been told around the family table through holidays and special occasions. And over the generations, the pictures, they're not all exactly labeled. Some of the names are starting to get a little bit blurry. And so I knew that she wanted me to preserve our history. And so I instantly knew that connection. I felt it like a lightning bolt inside of me. And when a loved one comes to you and looks you at with that certain look, you can't say no. And I wasn't going to be the one to tell Catalina Kennedy, no.
Thank you very much, Brigid. Thank you for that answer. The series is rooted in real family history, spanning Ireland and Peru. What part of that history surprised you the most as you began researching and writing?
Yes. So, of course, I knew the main frame of it. My great grandfather, Robert Patrick Kennedy, was an Irish treasure hunter, and he was in search for the lost city of Incan gold. So he left his homeland of Ireland with his younger brother John, and they braved the open seas and they crossed the Atlantic and they got all the way to the port of Lima. And to get from the port of Lima in Peru to the Peruvian Amazons, you have to cross through a town called Arequipa. And that's where he met my great grandmother. And they fell in love. They got married in 1910 at St. Catalina's Monastery Church. And that's the name that I gave my protagonist, their second born, Catalina, Cat. And so that's where her name comes from, was the church. But the part that really came out was the love story between Robert and Eudocia, my great grandfather and my great grandmother, and how that love story came to be, which was so surprising because my family in Arequipa was very wealthy, and there was a bullfight the next day, and they had like front row box seats to all of the matches, and so they invited these these Irish brothers to the bullfighting match. And during that match, my great grandfather got so excited, he started jumping up and down. And then he just leapt over the railing into the dirt of the arena and fought the bull. And in that process, the bull made a dramatic pass very close to him and, swept through his cape and everything. And my great grandfather turned and looked at Yadosha like, oh, look at me. I'm this brave matador now, and I'm the man of your dreams. And right then the bull decided to turn his head, and he actually impaled Robert on his pocket, his thigh, and his side with the horns, and flung him up in the air. And then he ended up crashing onto the ground, and the medics came right away, and they saved him. They stitched him up, and my great grandmother was his nurse through that time of healing, and they couldn't go into the Amazon the very next day with the deadly wounds. So over those weeks of him healing, they fell in love. And so just hearing those little stories in their love story was amazing to me.
Thank you very much, Brigid. Thank you for that particular answer. I want us to talk about, as a debut author, how did you navigate imposter syndrome while bringing such a personal and expansive story to life?
Yes, imposter syndrome is real, and I had it bad. And so all those little thoughts that you have in the back of your head, those negative thoughts of I'm not qualified enough. I didn't go to university to study. I have a busy life. I should be doing other things, especially as a mother. And I already had a profession. I'm a professional violinist. I could easily have said no to the calling. But the story was so important to me. And so what I had to do is I had to learn to write through that doubt. And I had to shove all those negative thoughts and doubts down low and lock them away. And I had to learn how to write through it.
Thank you very much, Brigid. Brigid, how do you balance historical truth and writing fantasy without losing the emotional authenticity of either?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the historical history, everything that I found and researched, it was all true and it's all there in my books. But what I did is I wrote my family, the Kennedys, into the gap that we didn't know. So the true story is after my great grandfather and his brother John came to Peru, and Robert fell in love with Eudocia and had children. John actually was on their expeditions in the Amazon, fell in love with a tribal woman, and he wanted to stay in the Amazon with that tribal lady in her village, and they ended up getting married and raising two daughters in the heart of the rainforest, which is tremendous. So then my great grandfather, Robert, he was kind of left on his own to finish this quest to find the lost city of ink and gold. And on one fateful expedition, he never returned. So we don't know what happened to him. We don't know what he found in the Amazon. We don't know what he saw. We don't know what held him back from ever returning. And that left a huge gap in our family, a hole in our hearts. And the family kind of crumbled apart. at that moment. And so what I did is I kept all that true history, but my story picks up with the children when they get old enough to find the map in his journals, and they wanted to like close that chapter and move on with their lives. And then they decide to venture into the magical borders of the Amazon. And that's where my story takes place. So I just imagined the grandest adventure that could have ever happened to my great grandfather. And that's where I put the kids into. So I balanced the true history with what could have happened. And it was a surprising thing because yes, I took this journey. Yes, I took this fantasy of the children reuniting with the father at the end. But what it actually brought my family was the closure that we have been missing for generations. Each one of my family members that have read this book now feels like that love story, that family, their history, their bonds is now completed. And that was something that I never expected to happen.
Thank you very much, Brigid. Brigid, why do you think stories rooted in real family history and ancestry resonate so deeply with readers today?
Could you repeat that question, please?
Why do you think stories rooted in real family history and ancestry resonate so deeply with readers today?
Oh yeah, yes. So, the need to find out where we came from, the need to belong to something is so strong with our generation today. Uh, we have like ancestry.com. We want to research our DNA. We want to find our roots, our traditions, where we came from. And so me, just kind of going through my family history and reclaiming our roots and our traditions. I think it has such a powerful impact because we can all feel that need to connect with our ancestors.
Thank you very much, Brigid. Here is my final question for you. Let's talk about your book, Lost. When readers finish reading Lost, what do you hope they feel or carry with them?
So, my book Lost, The Lost City of Ink and Gold. When you get finished reading it, it's a journey. It's a journey of the heart, with all the feelings and adventure and emotions. And my stories about the five siblings. And as siblings are, there are moments of laughter, tears, camaraderie, support, but there's also moments where they want to strangle each other. And I have that all in there. But what's interesting is that in the book, they find out what happened to their father. And each one of the siblings has grown up a certain way. And the father going missing for 15 years affected each one of the siblings in their different age at different ways. And so when you grow up and you assume one thing, like you assume what happened to your family, and you assume that you've been abandoned, and you assume that maybe you're unloved and everybody forgot about you. And then when you grow up and you realize that your assumptions were wrong because you finally figured out what truly happened, how do you cope with what you grew up with your whole life, that resentment and that anger, and then having the truth presented to you, and you're like, oh well, this is what really happened. I had it all wrong. How do you handle those emotions? So each one of my five siblings has a different emotion reaction to it. And so as a reader of my book, and I take you through this huge journey, hopefully one of those siblings can resonate with you, that experience and that conflict with resolving what you thought has happened, and you're being confronted now with what truly happened, and how you take care of that and blend and merge that and be able to be healed and move on from a tragic experience like that. So I hope that my readers could really resonate with one of those siblings and find true healing within themselves.
Thank you very much, Bridget. Thank you. This has been a very wonderful conversation. Thank you for being my guest on this special episode.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a treat.
So, before you go, where can my audience connect with you and know more about your work and get your book as well?
Yes, yes. So everything is Brigid Kennedy Books. And so my website, brigidkennedybooks.com, I have all the links and blogs and everything you can find. So on there, you can go and click buy book, and you can go to, it takes you to the Amazon page, to Kindle, Kindle Unlimited, Apple, Barnes and Nobles, Balboa Press. I have my audiobook on there, and I think it's been mentioned that I am a violinist, a professional musician, and I actually did my own soundtrack and theme music to the audiobook, so it is fantastic. You have to check that out. And all my socials and platforms are Brigid Kennedy Books. But the most interesting platform that I do want to invite you to is my YouTube channel. And I'm doing a series called An Author's Dream. And I'm actually reading every chapter in this book, so you get a personal reading from the author. And I go behind the scenes. I go and talk about each one of the main important sentences and the seeds to pay attention to, because later in the book, this is going to happen. And so I really give you the in-depth detail, what's happening in the lines. And I actually show the real family pictures of my treasure hunting family and give you the real history. And I show the real cat, Robbie, and even the wedding photos of my great-grandfather and great-grandmother, Robert and Eudocia. And also I have this cute animation where I talk to the characters in my head. And so you can also see those conversations. So it's a fantastic episodes. And every week I drop a brand new chapter and just move through the book. So I do invite you to take that journey with me.
Thank you very much once again. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you for being my guest on this special episode. Today, with Brigid Kennedy, we explored how story, ancestry, and imagination can intertwine to create something deeply personal and powerful. From family history to fantasy, one truth stood out. Some stories aren't just written, they are remembered. If this episode resonates with you, carry that curiosity forward. Until next time, see you guys on another episode. Hidden Secrets in Books. Bye, guys. Thank you, Brigid.
Thank you so much for having me today.